Welcome to One Way to Machines and the B7 Audi RS4 series.
Cars, people. I got a coolant light and I got coolant spewing everywhere. Gotta let this cool down and see what the is going on. Okay guys, so I caught it right there. There's a hose clamp that is slid off up here by this triple Y joint. Okay, the smoke isn't letting me see exactly what's going on, but that's why you got to catch it right away, because now I can probably slide that clamp back on, fill up with coolant, and drive it back home. But we'll see. Right there in the center under the airbox. Dumped almost all the coolant. Look at this mess it made. Really hoping I can get some proper coolant or at least something to get it home. But you see right there in the center of the screen, that's where it was spewing out from. That clamp there slid off somehow. So as soon as the low coolant light came on at that intersection right there, I pulled in all the way here, parked nicely. It dumped a lot of coolant. Don't ever gamble with coolant leaks, people, especially on cars like this. Don't think I can get home. No, pull over. If you're gonna have to get a tow, you gotta get a tow. All right, guys, so you gotta love this oil change place guy's honesty. He said I'm not a mechanic, so he doesn't know anything about this stuff, but he did give me these tools, which should be enough for me to roadside get this off and get that clamp back on. It's a really hot day. I'm just hoping that it was just a clamp that slid off, but it could be more. I hope I don't find a crack in that plastic hose. I have someone bringing me some coolant soon, but let's get this off and see what's going on. Okay guys, so with the snorkel removed, you can... All right people, looks like we're a lot more than I thought. This plastic is broken off of this. It's not just the hose that has come off, it's the whole thing. So I might have to get a tow. See it in there? How much? Then it dumped a whole bunch of freaking coolant. Yeah, and this hose in another video, another YouTuber that has an RS4 said this was very hard to source, and I'm pretty sure, well, I don't really need that hose. It's this piece that I'm gonna need, and I think this is available and used on Q7s and stuff, so it shouldn't be bad. But I hope the tow truck driver isn't a brainless the second, but let's see what happens. I'm most likely going to get it towed, and once it's cooled down, I'll be able to just drive it onto the tow truck ramp and also drive it off, so that they aren't doing anything stupid with their J-hooks and control arms. But look at that, these are old cars. Hot day. I wasn't even pushing the car. I was not even pushing the car. All right, so if it were up to me, like right now I don't have, the people who are gonna bring stuff didn't bring it, but I'd put 2 screws in here, fill it up and go. But let's see what happens. All right guys, so there's the clamp. Got some pliers from a mechanic here. Putting the self-tapping screw in there. I called one of the shops in the States that I've dealt with Audis before. A couple professional mechanics, their opinion was I might be able to get away with putting the 2 self-tappers in each side and filling up the coolant, but I've got about 8 to 10 miles to get home. So if something happens again, it's a loss of coolant, a loss of annoyance. And once the car's cooled down, it can be driven onto the tow truck. So after a bit of deliberation here, I think I'm gonna bite my pride of fixing it on the side of the road, and we're gonna get it towed to my house, and then we'll work on it there. But old brittle plastics, this is the story. Probably would get away with it, but I'm not gonna risk it with a car that you can't get a motor for, really, right? So that's the update as of now. That's the choice I've made. Let's see what happens next. Okay guys, back with you here. So I personally feel like, see, I've done the coolant bypass back there. JHM has those plugs. You can even plug them up. I feel like the pressure difference here is not that big. We'll only find out once I start to drive and fill up the coolant. So this mechanic shop guy is getting a little annoyed with me here, but in the limited time he gave me, I got 2 self-tappers and I have a small screwdriver from the shop across the street. So I will carefully put the clamp back on, put these in there, hope the plastic bits don't get in the coolant system. Obviously we're going to put proper Audi coolant in it once it's back at the garage. Wait a whole bunch of hours until it cools down. It's a very hot day to drive the car back. I'll buy some aluminum safe coolant from across the street and we'll see how this continues going. Okay, so with this risky business, I'm gonna put the clamp first and then I'm gonna self-tap it, because if I do it the other way around, it could crack the plastic, because these constant velocity clamps do put a decent amount of force on. So that's the way I'm gonna do it. Just telling you guys what I'm doing in case it happens to you and you wanted to try something crazy like this. The clamp went on, now let's do the screws. Okay guys, so here's what happened. The self-tapping screws were the correct size if it was gonna work with the clamp on. But as I put it in, it started eating into the plastic, but it was pushing in at the same time. So that piece of plastic went in that hose. Now that wraparound hose, I could probably build something later on, but this is also the hose that the other YouTuber a while back showed that was the last part in the country and could take 3 weeks, 4 weeks to come from Germany and probably cost a lot. So I'm gonna try to extract that. Now I could probably put a self-tapper in on this side, but again, I don't want to risk dropping plastic shards into the cooling system, and either way it really doesn't matter because we have the problem on the other side. We can't plug it. So even if there's a solution for the 45-degree elbow, there is no solution for this one here. I'm not going to try to push that plastic in more, because right now already it's going to be hard to get it out and salvage that hose, because there's nothing wrong with that hose. But this is where we're at, and I'm not also going to put a giant self-tapper into that hose, because then you're going to damage the hose and you'll have to get a new one. And like I said, that is a low availability part that goes all the way across there, so I'm not going to waste time with that. It's like I'm just going to wait here for a flatbed, and it can be driven onto the flatbed so they don't F up my control arms, because these idiots just throw J-hooks on everything and yank. So I'm gonna make sure it gets driven up. It's not gonna overheat once it's cooled down. Once I get home, same thing, I'm gonna drive it into the garage. So that's where we are. We're also not gonna waste a bunch of money on coolant trying to make this work. It's really not worth it at this point. So there you go. That's what happens sometimes with RS4 ownership and old plastic components. This is any German car with old plastic cooling system components. This can happen to. So there you go. All right, so we're just waiting on the flatbed. It'll be here in an hour. Gotta love Toronto traffic. Sometimes it's faster to walk. There have been cars that have been slower than me. I keep passing them and they catch up. And to think I wanted to drive this across the country, you got to change everything on these for any of you that own them. We're gonna drive it up with some boards. I don't trust either the hook or the control arms, and plus this driver is smart. He says he doesn't even do control arms. If he were to do it, he'd do it with the hook point there, right here. But we're just gonna drive it up. So, yeah, okay. So my handbrake isn't as strong as I thought. I'm the one that drove it up onto the truck. Got it in gear. He put one strap. I'm still holding the brake. So even if you have a good handbrake on the ground, it's fully pulled right now, you can see, and I'm still holding the brake while he straps it down. So yeah, things you got to pay attention to in towing. Well, it's going okay, and off we go. put 2 straps on before he told me to let go of the foot brake. Okay, a lot of drivers will tell you to do just the one, they'll just strap the one wheel, but if you're having problems, make sure 2 wheels are at least strapped in before you let off the brake. So when we get, I'm gonna drive it into my street because it's a bit awkward, but that's what we're gonna do. I'm not gonna get this loaded into the garage like that. And make sure they put all 4 straps on. There's a lot of lazy drivers that'll put 1 strap or 2. Make sure your car is safe and good to go. Well, I guess every single one of us has our day with these on a tow truck, even though I don't like it, but that's how she goes. Putting the wood underneath is a trick of this driver. Pretty smart idea on offloading. All right guys, drove her down the street just enough that the car didn't warm up, and let's get to work. All right, so here we are in the infamous garage, and we're gonna solve this problem properly, buy new parts, clean up the engine, everything, get some, I have a good amount of G13 coolant, mix it up, get this thing back on the road. But we're probably gonna do a lot of more preventative plastic stuff now that this occurred. So, German car life. But it's a good day because it's not major, it's all good.